Hello and welcome back. Today in module number 6 we are going to talk about cascading style sheets, and I will explain what it is and I'll explain how to create that in Adobe Dreamweaver. I will not get into details because if I will get into details this lecture will take 72 hours. So you will need to follow the PowerPoint and the reference that I will lay out for you in the module. So the idea here is that you are going to create a separate file that will dictate how the design of the website will look like. And so this is the idea of the cascading style sheet and what it does. So let's begin. So I will try to explain what you know about that, what you hope to achieve, and how familiar with you with HTML that will help you to create a better cascading sheet in order for you to apply to the design. Why is it so important? Again, you're going to work with a programmer that probably will not be familiar with that, and your job is to have this ability to create a design throughout the website. So I'll apply that, I'll talk about, and I'll also give you resources that you will be able to apply to. So the process of cascading style sheet is, if the HTML is the content and the meaning, it will help to convey that meaning. It allows developer to separate the content from the layout and the design. So the idea here is that the content and the design of the website will be applied to your design that you dictate in the casting style sheet. And so the change in the content does not require a big change in the design because you already lay out in the sheet itself. For example, consider the boldface font in the following example. So in this case, those are two different in HTML. There are two different fonts, and if you will lay out for the programmer to design that HTML look, he will need to go inside the HTML and apply that every time. And if your website is more than 150 pages, that might be a problem. So the idea here is that the style sheet help you to, first of all, it locates outside the HTML. You will call it inside the HTML, and it will give you the ability to lay out the foundation of, for example, the body, the container, the header, the footer, and so on. And so you will be able to see how it can be applied and how can it exist in the HTML when you are trying to apply to it. So the idea here is that all of that will help you to create a better unity in your design throughout the website. So what is the benefits of this type? Is separate structure from the presentation. It provides advanced control of the presentation and your design, and it's easily to maintains of multiple pages, faster page loader, and better accessibility and easy to learn. So all of that is a great asset to why so many companies and why so many websites use that as the way to design or to create unified design throughout the website. The casting style sheets allowed us to see things that usually you don't see it. Example, this is without the style sheet, and as you can see, it doesn't look so good, it doesn't feel so good, and it is a problem. So the elements usually flow from the top to the bottom with the HTML, and the position themselves is left by the default. The style sheet allowed us to create this default and allowed us to control the design element into it. So it works together with the HTML. The HTML give the structure, but the style sheet give us the style, and that's what the beauty of it. So it works on a box model. A typical web page consists of many boxes joined together from the top to the bottom, and those boxes can be stacked, nest, and can be even float, and the style sheet help us to do that. So in this case, this is Apple, and this is the Apple store. The header, the navigation, the content, and the footer all have a style sheet that allow them to have a consistent look to how the web page looks. And so in this case, the container and the header, the menu, the main, and the footer all consist of, can be one style sheet or multiple style sheets that give them consistency. The idea of the styling sheet is a separate file from the HTML. So right now you worked on a one single HTML page. So the style sheet can have ability to have external style sheet, which you have to have, and you will call it the style, and it will end up as a CSS, and you will highlight that and you will provide a link, or you can have it internal inside of it. So in this case, number 2 is it is internal, and it allowed us to do some manipulation. And again, you can also embed it into the HTML, and in this case, inside the HTML. I prefer that you will do that external, that you will have a separate file that is consist of the design, so the programmer in your team will have better understanding what's going on. The structure of this styling sheet has some rules, and it has properties and it has value. You need to declare those properties and those value in order for it to work. So example, the green is the element in the HTML, and in this case you have to give a property, you have to give a value, and it goes to the H1, which is the heading number 1, or the paragraph, or so on and so on, and that might help you a lot when you are designing the HTML or the website for your group project, or for purpose of your own design. So the properties and the values. First of all, we need to give it a background, any colors. And then we need to have, we can give a font size, large, small, and we can play with it in order for us to fit our overall scheme of the design that we want to embed it into the website. How many of you, if it was live, how many of you tried to organize your Microsoft Word document when you are submitting to a term paper or anything else? Usually one of the biggest problems with Word document, we have not much control how the entire interface or the entire structure of the document looks like, even though they give us a lot of features such as space, font, and so on and so on. This is something that the casting style allowed us to make the HTML more usability and more accessible in order for us to create better look and better feel to the content of the HTML. We can do the same idea of the same sector with different declaration together on one line, and again we can start with H1. We will say it's color black, the font weight is bold, the background is white, and those are the things that is really important for us to create something that is designable or has some design element to it, and it's consistent throughout the website. So this is an example of grouping, and I hope that you will apply that into your final project when we are going to start talking about that next week. You can always add comments to your code in order for the programmer to understand what you have done. And this is something that we will talk about next week when we are starting to talk about the final project, what you aim to do, how you're going to communicate with the programmer so that they will understand how to embed your design to every single page on the website. Again, I broke it down to paragraph and more. And so again, this is something that I found every time that I use Microsoft Excel. In paragraph, it's really hard for me to have consistent design throughout the paragraph. And here, with the using of the styling sheet, I am able to design something that is consistent, clean, and throughout the website, and something that I think you need to understand and to work with that in order for you to implement. One of the things that I want you to have, as I said, external link to the style sheet, and in this case I call it main, and I upload the file into the server. So the server has to, when he calls the main page, he will recognize the style sheet. In this case, he will recognize that the main is the style sheet, and allow to create some ability to implement that. The import, it can be used in conjunction with other methods. Example, you can, when you embedded images, you can have a style sheet that attached to the images, so you will be able to apply that throughout your website. So imagine that you want 2 pages out with internal 10 pages you have, in addition to normal indent and each and every paragraph in blue text. So you can do that by applying the P color blue, and that will force the HTML in any paragraph that you will open, that it will be blue. And so this is the beauty of it, and this is how you implement throughout the website, that implement this idea of the design into the HTML. So let's do some exercise. This is only practical, so you will have understanding why is it so important, and why I'm trying to focus you on the idea of it. So the use style to make a paragraph have 10 spaces in, which is the 6 EM, and make the text red. The hint that I'm going to give you is that both into one line of code using the separator, remember to create a paragraph in the body to see the style in action. So this is the first paragraph with the red text and large intent, and this is the second paragraph with the red text and large intent. So how do I do that? Again, look at I did not create external style sheet. I created inside the HTML, and I said style sheet text, and I called the P text intended, and I gave it dimension, and I also gave him the color, in this case red, and I closed the style sheet and embedded and started the HTML, the body, the paragraph, and the second paragraph. And as a result, you will see something that what I intended to see. Apply that. See how it feels. See how it looks, and see how much control you have over the HTML when you are using style sheet. Headers is also one of the things that is often been used, and again, you can play with it. You already know about the headers and how to apply for that. And you can have a selector, a class of current element, and you can apply that. And you can also apply, as I said to you in my experience with Word document that I always fail, normal paragraph. You can apply the style sheet in order for you to have some consistency, some design element, allowed you to implement all the things that you are going. I want you to read the PowerPoint. Just go over that. I think I wrote it well, so you will have better sense of what it consists of. This is H1. It is not intended, and so this is how I play with it. But I want to go to the Dreamweaver. And in Dreamweaver, as you remember, this is the interface for Dreamweaver. And as you remember, I want you to have, when you start a new page in Dreamweaver, he will ask you for type and you will say HTML. And I want you to have the style sheet open, but you did not apply yet to the style sheet. So basically, there is no link to the style sheet. And we will learn, and I will show you how to apply the style sheet. So the first thing that you need to do is establishing a style sheet. You're going to start with a class, can apply to any HTML class, or ID applies to only one element, or tag or component refines the HTML element, or compound based on your selection. You make the choice. I will say I will start with class, and I will say we'll start with I'll tag, and I will say I want to define the body, and I can say I want you to apply to this body, and the body will consist throughout. So I'm going to create a new style sheet, and I'm going to say OK, and he will open me. He will ask me to save what is the name of the style sheet, and I will say body, and I will say this is how I want it to be called, and here it is. This is where you're going to detect or to decide the type, the background, the block, the box, the border, the list, the position, the external, and you be able to do that and be able to apply your sense of design into it. Example, the font. You can create a font that will go throughout the website or throughout the body of the pages that you create. Example, if you are New Roman fan, that will be your design, and you can create the size of it: 9, 10, small, extra small, large, and so on. I select 10. The weight of you want it to be normal, bold, light, 100, and font size, is it normal or not normal, bold? And I will say normal to both, and I will say normal, and I can say capitalize, and I can say none, and I can say select a color to my font. So this is one element that the style sheet is so good that allowed me to apply this style throughout the website. So let's go to the next one, background. And I can say select the background, and in this case I will select color red, and I can also embed background image, so I can bring an image into the background. I will let you to decide if you want that, and you can select where do you want it, that the position of the background. Do you want it center, or do you want it on the left or the right? It's up to you. I want you to play with it and try to understand what does it mean and how to apply that. You will going to apply that. You're going to play with that quite a lot. I know it's going to take some time, so don't wait until Sunday evening and try to apply that, it will not work. You need at least 2 hours or 3 hours to see what is the impact. And I want you to have something that you'll be able to, when you're going to start talking to your programmer, you will have at least some sense, how do you want the design of the pages of the website to look like. And you can have a border, and you can have a same as all, or with a color, and you can have a list. And again, you can change it and apply that, positions and external and so on, and you can apply that. So in this case, if I will start writing, this is the style that I decided in my style sheet. This is where you see this. This is where I'm going to apply what I have already set up and play with it. Try to edit it. When you want to edit the style sheet, this is how you do that. You will click on the small pen, and you will start again, and we will increase the size. And as you can see, that's the effect. Play with it. Apply that and upload your end result to the website and see if you feel that it is what you intended to do. So in the PowerPoint presentation, I talked about I followed Kafim Abram in his description how to apply the style sheet into using Dreamweaver and how to apply that. And he talks about things that I did not talk in this presentation. He talks about layout and the margin and the width and the height and the border. Go over his notes too. I know that it's require a lot, but again, it's for on your benefit, and you will learn about that and you will understand better when you come down to design your final website. So again, the width and the height of the box is important. You can determine it, and you can have a background without the background. And again, this is something that is very useful, and all the websites that I know of using that, and it will give you a head start when, if you are thinking about this as your professional or future profession or even a sidekick, you will learn how to do that. That will be for your benefit. So again, I highlight everything that I took from him, and again, read it through, see what it makes sense, how to link the style sheet into the main page, how to embed the style sheet with the image, background image, position, attachment, and so on. And you also can create layering. Layering is like Photoshop. You can create layer and layer by using the style sheet, which is quite cool. And so I'm not going to talk about that. Experience it yourself and see how it can be embedded into it and how to apply that. I hope that you understand the power of the idea of the style sheet and why is it so important. And so I recommend, for my own experience, to use a separate file and to link it to the HTML, and the Dreamweaver allows you to do that. And so I want you to have two separate files, one for the style sheet and one for the HTML for the content that allowed you to do better things and be able to apply. Resources. Use the W3 schools. It's a great resource, even though they are talking about the code. Yes, I know some of you do not like code, but they are talking about the idea behind the style sheet. Apply that. See what is it entail. And if you have the time, there is a great textbook about the style sheet, The Missing Manual, by David McFarland, and he is doing a really nice job. I know that the book is available from USF Library. I hope you will enjoy that. I hope you will employ that and see how it apply. So this is all for this time. Your assignment for next week is to create a style sheet and to discuss what you have learned, how to apply that. It is a powerful tool. It is a powerful tool that allowed you to have external dimension to control your design. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to email me. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Until next time, have fun.